Alright people, Chris Billam Smith wins a deserved 12 round unanimous decision, majority decision, shockingly how it was majority, over Lawerence Okolie. Lawerence Okolie, in my opinion, had his dose of karma in this fight. And even then, he fought, and I'm just going to say it, right? I have the utmost respect for people who get in the ring, but Lawerence Okolie fought a cowardly fight. That's what I'm going to say. He fought like a coward in there. He really did. On the Element group, the boxing group we have an Element with Hatman and stuff, there was a few people saying, well, Smith's not really doing much and, he's not looking good. It's like, how can a man do anything in the ring when you've got a guy who literally throws one shot and tries to hold you, push you back, lean on you, pull your neck down? He doesn't even throw a punch and just tries to hold you. It was absolutely disgraceful from Lawerence Okolie. Absolutely shocking. Now, this is not new. He's done this throughout his career. And there was a time where we saw Lawerence Okolie a couple of years ago when he was getting a bit more excited and he was getting more knockouts. It was under Shane McGuigan and he was looking better. And my theory on that is that he was fighting such below par opponents that he felt comfy to let shots go because they were never going to trouble him. Some of those guys have gone out in the first round by people like Isaac Chamberlain, who Lawerence Okolie has already beaten. When he steps up, and having a world title, you have to step up. When he's finally stepped up and fought guys with pulses, he's done it in the past and he's done it now over the last year. All he's done is clinch, use his size, his strength to negate whatever the opponent can do, to the point where the opponent cannot physically get any offense off, right? It's horrible viewing. Hence the reason in that David Light fight, people were walking out, and David Light, of all people, who's not a particularly good fighter, he still did it. He done it against was it Seslak last year? And obviously he done it in here against Billam Smith. Lawerence Okolie, stemming from his amateur days, people talk about Lawerence Okolie as the pro, but they don't talk enough about him as an amateur because he was on the GB squad, but he wasn't seen as one of the guys that people were basing their hopes on for the Rio squad, if you know what I mean. He'd been in there against Erislandy Savon. He got flattened in a round. He fought Erislandy Savon, a heavyweight, at the start of Rio, and he got dropped 3 or 4 times in that fight. He's been dropped a couple of times as an amateur. So going into the pros, I knew about Lawerence Okolie, and I knew he was a big guy, he had a big punch, wasn't an amateur for very long, didn't have many fights, but was fragile. So when he started clinching excessively against these guys, I was like, oh, that's just because he's been flattened as an amateur, probably been dropped and hurt a couple of times in sparring, and he's just not wanting to go back to that place again, right? Which is not good because you don't want to rely on that because, as I said, your opponent can't get any offense. You take that clinching away, what do you have? If you look at Vladimir Klitschko, who was another example, a good example would be when he fought Brian Jennings. And Brian Jennings, a very small man, very small heavyweight, I should say, not a big puncher. But when Michael Griffin in that fight in 2015 told Klitschko, you're not holding, I'm going to keep taking points. Look how shook Klitschko was. And this was against someone who was small and can't punch, and Okolie is exactly the same. It's like he needs that clinch. He needs to be able to just wrap his opponent up, push him to the ropes to feel safe. If he doesn't, well, he's going to see the demons of the amateurs. He was down in the 4th round, and he was badly hurt in that 4th round. He had a point deducted in the 5th round. He had a point deducted in the 7th round. He was down again in the 10th round. That shouldn't have been called a knockdown, but considering how much he was fouling, it was probably fair that he did get it called a knockdown. Then he was down again legit in the 11th round. All in all, he had potentially, the 4th, the 5th, the 7th. He had 5, 10, 8 rounds go against him. That's why you saw such bizarre scorecards in this fight. They really were bizarre. When I heard the 115 and the 116 107 and the 115 108, I was like, they're giving it to Okolie. But because he'd so many points deducted, I think Billam Smith himself kind of was like, they're giving it to Okolie because the scorecards were just so strange, given the fact that there were so many point deductions. Judging by the 116 107 scorecard, that meant that they had Billam Smith winning even without the knockdowns, if I'm right, because it's a very, very, very bizarre the way the scorecards were. Really, really bizarre because of so many point deductions. But in this fight, Billam Smith, when he did have his moments, you see, familiarity breeds contempt. He knows some of the movements Lawerence Okolie does. He knows some of the shots that he's prone to, the left hook being one of them. He was able to land that. He was able to punch when he could get up close. He could punch with Okolie. You could tell he was the better guy. Not in terms of in every aspect, but the better up close. You know, his shots were crisper. They were more accurate. They were more telling. He had the better chin because he took plenty of shots from Okolie in there. Make no mistake about it. Okolie was landing his shots, but he was able to take them. No problem. You know, well, not no problem, but he took them. And, you know, obviously he had some very bad, well, not bad, but he cut over his eye, so that was affecting Billam Smith. But he stayed strong, stayed upright, made it to the end. I'm happy he won this fight for several reasons, because Okolie is someone who is very difficult to like. I know that sounds mean, but he is, because the way he fights in the ring is just horrendous. Outside the ring, I think the way he split with Eddie Hearn has rubbed people up the wrong way. And rightfully so. You know, some of the things he said and the labels he put on Eddie Hearn were not right. Eddie Hearn, at the end of the day, done amazing work with Lawerence Okolie. Despite the fact that Okolie stunk the joint out twice on major shows, by the way, that Eddie Hearn was using to try and build Okolie. And Eddie Hearn stuck with him through thick and thin. Bought him the Rolex like he said he would, made him some good money. And when Okolie was losing money hand over fist on these shows, Eddie Hearn basically said, look, I can't keep losing money. Let's re-sign, but I can't pay you crazy money because I'm just not recouping it. It's a business at the end of the day. He goes and jump ships to Sky and says, they're going to make me the face of boxing. I mean, if you believe that, I've got a bridge in London that I can sell you if you think Lawerence Okolie is going to be the face of Sky, because that's a complete lie. Do you see what I did there? That's a good rhyme. But anyway, going on from that, right? That left a bad taste in people's mouths. A lot of them. You know, even people who don't like Eddie Hearn were like, what? Eddie Hearn's literally done everything for you. So a lot of people are going to be pleased with this result. Look, at the end of the day, I don't know Lawerence Okolie personally. I have nothing against him. But the way he carries himself outside the ring and the way he behaves inside the ring, it's just not good enough. It's not endearing. It's not making me want to watch him. It's making me glad to see a fighter like Billam Smith, who, look, we never really heard of him up until a couple of years ago. I think just before he fought Riakporhe. Then we started hearing of him a little bit, and he is literally one of these fighters who's a product of the gym, as Johnny Nelson would say, where he's done it all in the gym. He's worked on his game. He's come up the hard way. He's taken an L against Richard Riakporhe. Some people felt he won it. He's taken fights against guys like Tommy McCarthy and stuff like that, and he's come up the hard way, and now he's a world champion. And I have to tip my hat off to Chris Billam Smith. Credit to him. It was a great little arena, but it looked, I know the Vitality Stadiums were Bournemouth FC play, but it looked great out there. The south of the UK, obviously I'm thinking of moving over there, so obviously I like it. I'm going to be biased towards the south of the UK. It looked amazing. But everything about it looked good, and Ben Shalom has looked into it. Ben Shalom has one guy who he's talked about being the face of boxing, who couldn't sell out the York Hall, and he's got another guy who could sell at the Vitality Stadium and then some. And who was he trying to push? Crazy. Ben Shalom hasn't a brace. But Chris Billam Smith wins. I know this might come across as a very ranty kind of post-fight, but again, even what I seen in there, you're just looking at it like, what the actual F? This guy needs to be DQ'd if he's going to fight like that, because at the end of the day, the people in the Element group again were saying, oh, Jay Apataya beats these, what, Smith's done nothing. It's like, how physically, if you were in that ring and a guy who's probably 10 pounds heavier than you and bigger than you and stronger than you is literally grabbing hold of you and pushing you every chance he gets, what can you do? You're not Spider-Man. You're not Dr. Octopus with the extra 4 arms. You can't do anything with them. So there's nothing you can do. How are you going to look good? It's impossible. He's literally grabbing you every chance he gets and me tooing you. That's literally what he's doing. Literally, that's what Chris Billam Smith should be claiming. I took that one from Del Boy. But that's literally what this fight was. Credit to Billam Smith. Deserved winner, in my opinion. And let's see. This went on. All the fights went on a bit late, so I haven't had a chance to look at the Lee Wood fight. I hear he's winning, but I don't know. We'll try and get a post-fight for that out this evening, maybe, potentially. But for now, I'll leave you with that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. For now, lads and lassies, smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, I'll talk to you. Peace.